Hello again, Patriots. This is Linda Rice. I promised you last time that I was going to come back in a short time and give you, and we were going to look together at the Bill of Rights. So my last presentation was dealing with Articles 1, 2, and 3 of the Constitution, and then looking at Article 5, which is the article that gives the states the ability to gather in convention to propose amendments. So last time we not only looked at the organizational structure of the Constitution, but we looked at the preamble and the 6, I think, goals that were laid out there. So today we are, like I said, going to look at the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Don't know if you know, but the Constitution was initially structured and ratified without a Bill of Rights. And George Mason from Virginia, along with others, insisted that there would be a Bill of Rights for the individual, that it was not good enough to develop a structure for the country to rule by, but it was most important to have a Bill of Rights for individuals. And I just want to say that, oh, there's a motorcycle in the background. You may hear it. I just want to say that I have heard of late in the last several years that it's just what a pity it is that we don't teach civics in our schools anymore and yada, yada. And that's probably true. However, in the last at least 2 weeks, I think what we found out is that we may not know the Constitution intellectually, but it is ingrained in our psyches, in our very being, in our very hearts as Americans. We know, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I guess what I'm saying is our Constitution maybe isn't so much taught these days, but it has been caught. And as Americans, we just simply understand, maybe through osmosis, that the individual is all important. The individual is all important. We are a Judeo-Christian country, biblically based from the very beginning, and that is the message of the Judeo-Christian faith and the Bible, that the individual is extremely important. He or she is above all other things. So that makes me happy. I hope it makes you happy that maybe it's true we aren't really taught the Constitution, but we do know that the individual has rights. And I'm rejoicing to see all of the protests around the country, even in places like California, which I guess maybe a lot of people thought was a lost cause, but clearly it's not. So let's take a look at the Bill of Rights then, starting with the all-important foundational First Amendment. Just going to read, Congress shall make no law. So just going to point out, it doesn't say anybody else can't. Maybe people will disagree with me, but I'm just reading what it says. Congress shall make no law. And then I believe it's up to the other states to reiterate that in their constitutions. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise of religion, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or abridging the right of the people to peaceably assemble. And then lastly, to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Just talking this season, we have seen some states declare that church is essential, thus honoring the First Amendment, and other states and cities and counties perhaps demanding that people don't go to church. So we have seen on the spectrum of things, those who have respected the First Amendment and those who don't seem to do so. you can prohibit the free exercise of religion by closing a church down. That is prohibiting the free exercise of religion. And others would say that you can do it at home. Others would say that the exercise of religion, especially, well, both Judeo, I would say all religions, it's a gathering together of those of a faith. Freedom of speech or of the press. I guess what I want to do today, I'm starting off a little awkwardly, apologize for that. I guess what I want to do today is look at all of these in light of our current situation. And I'm just going to say what I've seen, and then I would be extremely happy. This will go out on YouTube, and I will put it on my Facebook page, and I will be sending an email out to Convention of State supporters. I would love to hear your perspectives on where you have seen this First Amendment violated. We've seen prohibitions of the freedom of religion. I personally haven't seen freedom of speech denied, and of course not the press. I have seen the right of the people to peaceably assemble violated over and over and over again. That's in this season, in this First Amendment, the thing I see the most is what's up here as 3B, the right of the people to peaceably assemble, has been denied by many who have a government power. Some governors, some counties, some cities, some mayors. I just want to kind of emphasize the last part of the First Amendment. We have the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. To me, that looks like if your business lost money, you have a right to sue and get that money back. If I were a business owner, I think I surely would do that. It does say petition the government for a redress of grievances. And if I had a business and you told me I couldn't be open, that would be a very definite grievance that I would have against the government for doing so. If you only suggested that and I chose to close, that's a different story. So from my perspective, that's just what I'm seeing. And so let's just take a look then at the Second Amendment. 2A says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Infringed means don't touch. Don't touch. Don't touch a little bit, don't touch a lot, don't touch. Personally, I'm not a gun owner, but I am a constitutionalist, so I understand the people have a right to protect themselves, both from bad citizens and from bad government. And so right now I'm going to look at a case from Jackson, Mississippi. And let me scroll ahead a couple, one more to say this is from Jackson, Mississippi, and the mayor is, I'll just say his last name, Lumumba, Chokwe Antar Lumumba. The mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, under state statutes 45-17-7E, he says, and the discretion in the interest of public safety and welfare to issue such orders that are necessary for the protection of life and property. Oops, sorry, very sorry. That's a United States statute, apparently. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, under state statutes. This is Mississippi. He says he is allowed the discretion in the interest of public safety and welfare to issue such orders that are necessary for the protection of life and property. So that is a statute under which Lumumba has ordered this and declared all rights must be balanced by reasonable regulations. A right that protects illegal guns and a right that interferes with another person's right to live is not a legitimate right to be maintained. So let's go back. I'm just kind of absorbing that myself. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the Constitution of the United States. The mayor of Jackson, Mississippi decides that he has, under a state statute, the right to protect life and property. And so he is going to go about doing that by saying that illegal guns, a right that protects illegal guns, is not a legitimate right. Well, I don't know who has defined an illegal gun, but I guess he says he has. So this is the biggest case that I've heard of in our country in regard to violation of the Second Amendment. And I understand that the governor of Mississippi shot back real quick, and I don't know what the outcome was, but let's just say that there's a conflict of interest between the governor of Mississippi and the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. And so we will see how that all works out. The mayor said all rights must be balanced. Let's go back again. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So that's the word infringed in the Constitution. And then Lumumba says all rights must be balanced by reasonable regulations. To me, that just doesn't say the same thing. And then he says that a person's right to illegal guns is not a legitimate right. So that is a now case within our United States, and there may be others. I would love to hear from you if you know of other violations of either the First or Second Amendment. So that was a kind of an overview of that. And then he also cites Mississippi Code 45-17-7, which I just mentioned, which says after proclamation of a civil emergency, the administrative officer may at his discretion and excuse me, I can't read the one word, interest of public safety and welfare. He says it gives him the right to order the discontinuance of selling, distributing, and dispensing or giving away of firearms. Selling, distributing, or dispensing. And then E on this Mississippi Code says he may issue such other orders as are necessary for the protection of life and property. So that's what's being battled out in Mississippi. I really don't know. This was a week ago that I put this slide up, and I haven't kept track of what's going on there since, but I find it very interesting, and it's actually rather fun to see entities, federal, state, and local entities fighting over who's really in charge. I think it's a good and a healthy discussion. But Mr. Lumumba is wrong, because the federal government, the state government, or a local government is not the supreme law of the land. The Constitution is. And the Second Amendment says that you have a right to keep and bear arms, and it shall not be infringed. And that would mean by anybody. Amendment number 3, I guess is not relevant at this time, but back in the day, during the Revolutionary War, soldiers could just go and say, hey, we're staying in your house, that's the way it is. You sleep on the floor, we'll sleep in the bed. Well, we're not there right now, and praise God for that. But the Third Amendment says that no soldier in time of peace, no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner prescribed by law. So I guess I'm now just looking at the difference here. In time of peace, no soldier shall be quartered in any house. That's emphatic language, without the consent of the owner. But in time of war, that may happen, but in a manner prescribed by law. So war and peace. Peace, no way. War, maybe. I hadn't read that amendment, actually, just till now, very carefully, because I didn't see how it pertained. But I'm looking at it a little more carefully now. And as I'm discovering it, I hope you will too. All right, the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Let's just stop there. The right of the people to be secure. Security. When I'm walking around in my house, in my papers, and in my effects, I don't know really what that might mean, against unreasonable searches and seizures, that applies. If I am walking in a park, I have the right to be secure. If I'm in my home, I have the right to be secure. All of my papers and effects, I have a right to secure them against unreasonable searches and seizures. I live in Grayson County, Texas. It's a rural county, and we have had no restrictions at all by the government. And I just say to the county, Grayson County, Texas, and to my town, Denison, Texas, thank you for not being overlords and tyrants. We have parks we can go to freely. We have never had any restrictions in any way. Certain stores have done things to social distance and have aisles in the grocery stores that are one way. That is their private property. They can do that. But other people may have experienced other things, probably depending on where you live, and specifically if you live in a large city, you probably have had less freedom than we fortunate people who live in rural America. But just emphasizing the word secure, you have a right to be secure, period, against unreasonable searches and seizures. Unreasonable. If you're coughing on somebody, I don't feel sorry for you if they haul you into jail. I do not. If you're minding your own business, you have a right to be secure while you're minding your own business. If you're acting the fool, I don't feel sorry for you. But if you're just minding your own business, you have a right to be secure. Against unreasonable searches and seizures, the right of the people shall not be violated, and no warrants shall be issued but upon probable cause. That means they already suspected you of something beforehand, or they see you doing something and acting the fool. That's a clear probable cause. If you're obviously invading somebody's space, coughing on them, getting too close to them, hollering at them, then you're just a fool, and I don't feel sorry for you. Probable cause supported by an oath or an affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So that search warrant has to come before the search. This is just cause and effect. First you suspect something, then you have a search warrant, and then you have a search. You don't search without a warrant. That's this part of the Fourth Amendment. So I hope everybody listening has felt secure wherever they have been. And I hope none of you have had any unreasonable police intrusion into your life. But look this over carefully. These things have been violated throughout our country, and you may know somebody who has experienced a violation of this part of the Fourth Amendment. This is a big one right here, right now. All right, let's move on. The Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. Again, an indictment is that there's been suspicion. You have to prove that somebody was up to something before you indict them. You just can't go indicting them. You can't do a Flynn on them and what's it called, a sting operation. There has to be an indictment by a grand jury, and there has to be evidence. And there's an exception here, except in cases arising in the land, naval forces, or militia, when in actual service in time of war. My dad liked to tell a story from World War II. And there was a guy that went AWOL from his camp. I don't recall the whole story, but there was a guy that went AWOL from his camp, and my dad said that guy was gone. They caught him and they hung him that very day. And I remember hearing that, and I'm going, wow, that's just really, really hard to believe. There was no grand jury, and I guess there was no real trial. I really don't know what went on, but that was my dad's version of the story, that they hung that guy right on the spot when they caught him going AWOL. And I expect there had to be some sort of a trial. But at any rate, I'm referring to this exception clause if you're in the military. And my dad was in Italy at the time, serving during World War II. So no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. It's sort of a reasonable cause thing. They've got to prove that they think you're guilty of something before they indict you. Okay, part 2 of the Fifth Amendment. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. Just what comes to mind right off the bat is O.J. Simpson. A lot of us think he was guilty, but the jury ruled innocent, so he can't be tried a second time. Therefore, the victims' families of his wife and this other fellow, that Goldman, I believe was the name, the other fellow, their families did a civil suit against O.J. Simpson, but he couldn't be tried twice for the same offense. So if you're held innocent, that's it. No second chance for the government. Nor shall anyone be compelled in a criminal case to be a witness against himself. That is pleading the fifth. That's a good thing. And the wife also, although I don't see that it is, or the spouse, I should say, I don't see that it's here in this part, but it says you can't be compelled to be a witness against yourself. That sounds very fair. They've got to prove. Now, I heard recently, I guess it was just yesterday, I was listening to some guy on American Family Radio, and they were saying, and if you're a British person or if you know anything about British law, tell me, email me, tell me if I'm wrong, that in British law, you have to prove yourself innocent. In America, the government has to prove you guilty. So if that's true, that's a really whopper of a difference between the two legal systems. And our founding fathers probably had a real good cause to put this in the way they did, because they came from a different system. When I heard that the other day, I thought, could that possibly be true? Because I guess we think that the British law system is pretty much ours, and maybe it's not. So anybody out there who knows if I'm right or wrong, please let me know. But again, you cannot be compelled to witness against yourself. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Here we go, shutdowns. Was there a due process of law in all of the states that shut down the economies? Was there a due process of law? I live in Texas, and I really don't know all the specifics of how things were handled. I don't know if they were edicts. Honestly, like I said, I don't own a business. So I really don't know how our governor, my governor, Greg Abbott, did this. But let's just read what it says. You cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property. If you're a business owner, that's your property, without due process of law. I don't see how a government mandate is a due process of law. From what I understand, there were 5 states that did not shut down, and both Dakotas, North and South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, and Arkansas are the 5 that I've heard of So if you're from any of those 5 states, kudos to your governors for not shutting down. But this is the 4th clause of the 5th Amendment. You cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And a county or state edict by a governor or county judge or city mayor is not a due process of law. Just this plain English. All right, let's move on. And the last part, I think it's the last part of the 5th Amendment, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. This is basically, I think, dealing with eminent domain. And I bet a lot of folks who had land taken just think that whatever compensation they got probably wasn't all that just. I've never had experienced that. If you have, we'd love to hear from you. I don't know that any of this has been taken, private property taken for public use. I don't know that that's happened. It may have. If you know of some case where during this season, I'm not going to call it what they call it because I don't think it's what they say it was. If you've heard of any cases where private property was taken for public use without just compensation or due process, we'd love to hear from you. All right, let's move on. Okay, the 5th Amendment was very tricky. The 6th Amendment, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury, to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against he or she, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in your favor, to have the assistance of counsel for your defense. So if you have been accused of a crime, criminal prosecution, it says criminal, not civil cases, but criminal cases. Speedy trial, public trial, impartial jury. Jury of your peers is often the phrase that's used. The nature and cause of the accusation stated out clearly. You did this, you did that. Who are your witnesses? Who are the witnesses in your favor? Who are the witnesses against you? And you have the right to a counsel, a lawyer for your defense. The 6th Amendment. The 7th Amendment. In suits at common law where the value, this is hilarious to me, this is an amendment that maybe could be updated. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved. And no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States other than according to the rules of the common law. Got no problem with this amendment. Maybe we could take and change that $20 to something a little more inflated in time. So the 7th Amendment. The 8th Amendment, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. To me, it's a cruel and unusual punishment to be asked to close your business. Some may disagree. Number 9, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. In other words, these are just 10 amendments, or up to this point, 8. So your founding fathers are telling you, we got 1 through 8. Now there may be other rights. Don't let that stop you from saying that there are more rights. You can certainly add to your rights. But we're just giving you 8. Our founding fathers said, look, here's 8. If you want to add more, you may add more. It's not in the Constitution, but some people think that there are rights out there that are not in the Constitution that courts have said are rights. And I'm not even going to go there on that. See if you can guess what I'm thinking. Number 10, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states. I wish I had made bold the words reserved to the states. This has been a really interesting season. As I said a few slides ago, we have got, a couple of weeks ago, Trump was saying he was the boss and governors weren't. And then the governor said, whoa, what? And then he backed off, Trump backed off, and the governors, even in blue states, discovered federalism, which if you're a convention of states advocate like I am, you're going to be really actually quite happy, should be quite happy for all this power jockeying that's going on, because it's a healthy discussion. This 10th Amendment refers to the sovereignty of states. Powers not given to the federal government are reserved for the states or the people, respectively. And again, we have had lots of battles. The mayor says this, the county judge says that, the governor says this, the president says this. Well, who's in charge? The answer is the Constitution's in charge, which is always a glorious thing. All right, I'm going to shift a little bit, and with apologies to the folks that aren't Texans, I just want to look at pertinent sections of the Texas Bill of Rights that apply to our season in our lives here. So if you're not a Texan, maybe you can find some things in your state constitution. Let me just say, I encourage you to look at your own state constitution, wherever you're from, and see what it says about various things. So the Bill of Rights, Texas Bill of Rights, Section 1. The maintenance of our free institutions and the perpetuity of the Union depend upon the preservation of the right of local self-government. And I say, hoo-hoo, local self-government. I'm going to read that again. The maintenance of our free institutions and the perpetuity of the Union depend upon the preservation of the right of local self-government. Self-government starts with self, and it moves to the family, then it moves maybe to your place of business, to your city, to your county, to your state, to the federal government. Local self-government. Local self-government starts with self. So govern yourself, teach your children to govern themselves, govern your family, but by all means, ingrain this phrase into your mind. The maintenance of our free institutions and the perpetuity of our union depend upon the preservation of the right of local self-government. That is a beautiful phrase. And it's not all of Section 1, it's just a portion of Section 1, but it's the part that I thought was just glorious. Okay, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. All political power is inherent in the people. All political power is inherent in the people. And all free governments are founded on their authority, the authority of the people, and are instituted for their benefit. I would have to say that in this season, we have not seen this in effect. All political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on the authority of the people and instituted for their benefit. Political power is for the benefit of the people, and the people are the authority. And everybody said amen. Section 6, I'm just going to jump. These are the pertinent sections for this season in time that I've seen. Section 6 of the Texas Constitution says, it is the duty of the legislature to pass such laws as may be necessary to protect equally every religious denomination in the peaceable enjoyment of its own mode of public worship. Whose duty is it? The legislature's duty. Texas legislature has not been meeting. So I don't know how the legislature is going to protect religious denominations or religious activities unless it's in session. That's just my thought. If you want to disagree with me, You may do so, please do so. If you don't like it and you're mad at me, I wish you would just ignore it. Please don't respond at me and be mad. But if you want to be mad, be mad. But I'm just reading. It is the duty of the legislature to pass laws that may be necessary to protect every religious denomination. If you're in a county in one of the major cities in Texas, your county government probably wasn't protecting your religious liberty. But if the churches were closed, then it would be a moot point, I guess. All right, let's move on. Section 19. No citizen of this state shall be deprived of life, liberty, property, privileges, or immunities, or in any manner disfranchised, except by the due course of the law of the land. That should say disenfranchised, I would think. You cannot deprive us of life, liberty, or property except by the due course of the law of the land. And that's just sort of a reiteration of the United States Constitution without due process of law. So section 19 of the Texas Constitution sort of reiterates the US Constitution due process clause. Section 27, did I miss one? Let's see, no, 27. The citizens shall have the right in a peaceable manner to assemble together for their common good, and apply to those invested with the powers of government for redress of grievances. Again, a reiteration of the First Amendment, peaceable assembly and redress of grievances, a Texas version of the First Amendment of the US Constitution. Okay, one more, I believe, section 29. To guard against transgressions of the powers herein delegated, we declare that everything in this Bill of Rights is accepted out of the general powers of government and shall forever remain inviolate. That means you can't violate it. And all laws contrary thereto or to the following provisions shall be void. So if Texas has violated if any government power in Texas has violated any of those previous sections we read in the Texas Constitution, then they shall be void. I'll read that one more time. To guard against transgressions of the law by powers herein delegated, we declare that in everything in this Bill of Rights is accepted out of the general powers of government and shall ever remain inviolate, strong forever. And all laws contrary thereto or to the following provisions, all laws contrary to the Bill of Rights shall be void. And that says law. It doesn't say executive order, just there's a difference between an executive order and a law, FYI. All right, I think that is the last part of this section, the last section of the Texas Constitution. So concluding this time together, a couple days ago, I decided it would be a great idea to do a Facebook Live oath to the Constitution. It occurred to me maybe a year and a half ago that native-born citizens never declare an oath to the Constitution. We pledge allegiance to the flag, which, if you see the flag behind me there, I bought that the other day at Family Dollar, I think, and hung it up there just for this presentation. Normally I have something else, so just put that back there. Oath to the Constitution. I decided that it would be a wonderful thing for us, we citizens, native-born citizens, if we would take an oath, not just to the flag, but actually to the Constitution, because I'm not really sure how great a pledge to the flag is. I'm not sure I know what that means. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Now that's better, and to the republic for which it stands. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. But everybody who goes into office, everybody in elected office, any military and naturalized citizens all swear an oath. They swear a different oath, and they're all different. They do swear an oath upon entrance into the military, entrance into a political office, or entrance into citizenship. So this is just a very small version of an oath to the Constitution that you and I can do. I did one the other day on Facebook Live, which was longer than this, and I think I may redo one. And I'm going to challenge you, encourage you to do the same thing, an oath to the Constitution. So say with me, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will be a faithful citizen of the United States. So help me God. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will be a faithful citizen of the United States. So help me God. Faithful citizens vote. If you don't vote, I hope I never meet you, because I'm going to say something. I believe that's the last slide. Not the last slide. Encouraging you to go to openthestates.com, where you can find out where rallies are being held in your state. Openthestates.com. This is a Convention of States page that you can go to see what's happening in your state, to open businesses, open the economy. And then if you have not signed the Convention of States petition, you can do so at conventionofstates.com/take_action. And then I do believe this is the last slide. So I want to thank you for listening. And I want to bless you all. Thank you so much. And maybe I'll come back again with just more about Convention of States. But for now, that is your Constitution, both the organizational part, the goals that are set forth in the preamble, and the Bill of Rights, which is something that we're really contending for right now. So you have a blessed day. Bye-bye.